Here's lesson 120, number 18. It wants you to graph f of x, well, letter A wants you to do f of x equals arc cosine x. It's a capital A, so there's a restriction on the domain. I always go, all students take calculus. I know that the first quadrant and the fourth quadrant are the ones that we want to use unless there's some reason not to. In this case, there's a reason not to. I'd have a positive number here and a positive number here. I want a positive and a negative. So I actually want my domain to be in the first quadrant and the second quadrant. So in other words, the angle measures would be between 0 and 180, or in this case between 0 and pi. Okay, so that's what that capital A does. And so this is an inverse function, so that means if I know the ordered pairs of the original function, I can just swap them. I can like exchange the x's and the y's. So I just graphed the regular y equals cosine x, and then I just picked 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points that I know, because I have this graph memorized. So this is this point right here is 0, 1, and this point is let's see if that's pi. That's pi over 2, 0. That's pi, negative 1. Get the idea? I got the points. This is the original function. So if I want to graph the inverse function, I can just go like 1, 0, 0. I can just say that, graph them backwards. Also, I need to graph this axis is going to be the horizontal axis now. Or in other words, I'm going to have my degree measures on the vertical axis. Now I know my degree measures only need to go between 0 and pi, so I really only need, I don't need a lot. I just need to show the part that's between 0 and pi. And then my 1 and my negative 1, see, we just like did it opposite. We labeled the axes opposite. And then I just go ahead and do the ordered pairs that I have. 1, 0. Right, see, this is I wrote this little line here because that's my restricted domain. So I just really needed to do these 3 points. And then I try to connect them. I know it looks kind of bad, but try to connect them in a smooth curve. We know it has that little, where is that over here? We know it has this little bend to it. So just try to make it look like it's having a little bend. And then it wants the domain. The domain's in between -1 and 1, and the range is in between 0 and pi. That was letter A. Here's letter B. I want arctangent x with a capital A, so I go over here and I say, let's see, all students take calculus. How is arctangent restricted in its domain? Well, I'd use these two if I can, and I can because this would give me a positive value, that would give me a negative value. So that's, as far as angle measures, that's pi over 2, and that's negative pi over 2. So I'm trying to restrict my domain between negative pi over 2 and positive pi over 2. So that means when I draw my graph, I only need to draw that part of it. This got a little messy, but I just picked these 3 points from my parent function, 0, 0, and that's pi over 4, 1. Where did I get these from? I know that I have it memorized because this is just the parent function of y equals tangent x. So now I can graph these backwards. So, and also see how the 1 and the negative 1, they were on the vertical axis, now they have to go on the horizontal axis. And then I can just go -1, negative pi over 4. Well, negative pi over 4 is going to be somewhere in between negative pi over 2 and 0, so it's right there. And there's 0, and there's that one. At first I was going to say x has to be in between negative, or the domain is in between -1 and 1, but then I realized the graph goes on forever and ever, so the domain is the reals, and the range, that's supposed to say in between -π/2 and +π/2. Next one. Arc sin x. So the capital A says there is a restricted domain. Students take calculus. So I like to use 1 and 4 if I can, and I can because we have a positive value here and a negative value here because sine. So that now I'm going to be in between -π/2 and +π/2, right? Or between negative and positive 90. That's going to be my restriction that I have. So that restriction, that means when I do my angle measures, I only need angle measures on the vertical axis between +π/2 and -π/2. I went ahead and got my 5 ordered pairs off of the parent function and just listed them down. And then I kind of, I always draw my parent function just right here. Well, it turns out I needed some of this over here, so I just got another point for myself. If that's π/2, that's -π/2, -1. So I just added that down at the bottom. And then I just plotted the ones that are in between 0, or in between -π/2 and +π/2. So didn't plot that one, didn't plot that one. Right, I only plotted the 3 that were in the right range there. And then there's the domain, and there's the range.